And get started. Hi, everyone. I'm Nancy Rose Dufford. I'm the Executive Director for PEN, the Pasadena Education Network. And I'm going to assume that you have all been to our website. You know all the information we have, the fact sheets, the information about school tours. So I'm going to make this really quick because I know we want to get to hearing from the principals, and just say that please check out your neighborhood high school. We believe that there's a lot of great options in PUSD, and that you just might find that your neighborhood school is the right choice for you. And we hope that you will consider that as you're looking around for your options. Tonight, what we're going to do is our program director, Susan Schwartz, is going to give you an overview of the high school options, and then she'll introduce the high school principals. They'll answer some of the questions you submitted to us when you registered, and then we will open the chat for you to ask additional questions. So at this time, I'm just going to say thank you to Jeff Albert and Collaborate Pasadena for hosting us, and turn it over to Susan so that way we can get started.
All right, thank you, Nancy. So hi, everybody. I'm Susan Schwartz. I am the program director for Pasadena Education Network. And I'm going to jump right in. We have a short slideshow, which I'll put up. I hope that most of you got the email I sent this afternoon with some links to various resources. If we were in person, we would have these as handouts, but obviously we're not, and we don't. So, but what we will do also is send a follow-up email later with the recording link, and again, sort of those links to the various resources are which, so if I'm talking about something during the slideshow, or somebody mentions something and a link is mentioned, don't worry about trying to get it written down or copied or anything. We will share those separately so that you have them in an email and easy to access. So with that, let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so here we go. So just to start off with, want to give a little bit of an overview about what is it that makes looking at high school a little bit different than the things you've been looking at as you've been looking at schools, you know, back with elementary and middle school, because there are, you know, some things to think about. More courses to choose from, college and career academies and pathways, sports and clubs and leadership opportunities. You have some of that, you know, earlier in middle school, but it's becomes more central to things you may be considering when you get to looking at high schools. And then, of course, preparation for graduation and beyond. So in terms of course options, as you may know, there are electives that are, you know, include some electives within core subject areas such as science, math, and social studies, as well as world languages and the arts. There's advanced placement, or AP. The International Baccalaureate has IB certificate courses, which operate similarly in the sense that there's an exam and credit that can be obtained by scoring well on that exam, in addition to the IB diploma. Then there's all the college and career pathway and academy specific courses. So there's an opportunity for your student to take core courses with a cohort in an area that helps them to explore a particular career direction. And there's actually going to be another program that focuses specifically on that, offered December 8th, and I will share the link for that in our follow-up email. So that will be a chance to really learn more about those specific opportunities. And then there is dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment, which we'll touch on briefly. But again, we will share more specific resources about that in our email. So I'm going to go somewhat quickly through this just because we want to have time for the principals to talk and for you to get to know them and just sort of hear from them about some of the questions that you had. So The college and career pathways, again, I'm not going to read the slide, but there is a program on December 8th, and we will share the link to that. And that will give you a chance to look in more detail at what those involve and what they offer. Sports and clubs, activities, those are going to vary a little bit from school to school. They're often based on student interest, so they may change even from year to year if there's enough student interest for a certain club and clubs themselves become leadership opportunities in addition to student government. Oops, skipped. Preparing for graduation and beyond. There is information, and again, we'll share the link for the detailed information, but you do have to start thinking as you're looking at high school about meeting the graduation requirements, in addition to community service or work-based learning hours. Students in our district do a senior defense exercise. They put together a portfolio that reflects on their learning. And there are also specialized diplomas that recognize specific student accomplishments in different areas. And I'm not going to talk about the A through G requirements here today, but we will again share information about that. And that is something that is part of thinking about what sorts of courses your student is taking is getting ready for being college eligible. And to that end, I do want to give a shout out, in addition to our high school counselors who focus on helping students schedule the courses they need to graduate, as well as those they'll need for college. There is an organization in this community called College Access Plan, or CAP, that operates drop-in centers on all the high school campuses and really focus on that college counseling, from exploring the options to writing essays to understanding the financial aid process. And so then again, we'll share that link, but that is something you can ask about when you go to tour a high school rather, but they are serving all of our PUSD students at all of our high school campuses, both with drop-in services and with programs and workshops and things like that. So let's get to an overview of the options. And I want to start by sharing just a few highlights of some of our graduates from this past spring. These are valedictorians in the different high schools, but they are some of the places that they are now that they've graduated include USC in the College of Engineering, Harvard University, Yale University, UCLA, again, chemical engineering, and we're UC Berkeley here. At my little thingamajig is covering it up. So how to get rid of that. Anyway, I think it's important to realize that no matter where you go in this district, your student has amazing opportunities to learn and to grow and to explore different things and to basically write their ticket and go wherever they want from here. So let's give a quick overview of the individual schools. We have John Muir, Early College Magnet. This is a standalone high school. Now these numbers are, I think, from last spring, or from last year. They may not be the exact numbers that you have right now, but it gives you some idea of kind of relative size of the different schools. It's distinguished in part by the fact that all of the students who enroll are in one of 3 of these college and career pathways, and by the fact that it has an early college partnership with Pasadena City College, so that all students starting in the 9th grade do earn college credit and get to take classes at the satellite campus of PCC that's located on Muir's campus. We have Pasadena High School, also a standalone high school. And when I say standalone, I mean these are just grades 9 through 12, which are the high school grades. And we do have a couple of schools that go 6 through 12, so they have both the middle and the high school as part of the same school. But Muir and Pasadena are both standalone high schools. Pasadena is larger with over 1,600 students in grades 9 through 12. And at least last year, it was about a third of the students are enrolled in one of 3 of the college and career pathways. There's the App Academy, Creative Arts, Media and Design, or CAM-AD, and Law and Public Service. And then the Mandarin Dual Language Immersion Program, which is offered at Field and then Sierra Madre Middle School, continues on at PHS. And the Math Academy program, for those of you whose students are doing that in middle school, that program continues on at PHS. Blair is one of the 2 6 through 12 secondary schools. So they're adjacent campuses. There's a middle school campus on one side of Marengo and the high school campus is on the other, but they are one school. And that's about 582 students in grades 9 through 12. So the whole school is larger than that, but the high school component is relatively small compared to the standalone high schools. And everyone at Blair in grades 6 through 10 are part of the International Baccalaureate program, or IB middle years program. And so the choice is made at 10th grade going into 11th grade, whether to pursue the full IB diploma program. Dual language is also represented there with the Spanish dual language feeding to Blair. There is also an Armenian language academy that was added a couple of years ago. And then their college career related pathway is the Health Careers Academy. Marshall, the other school that is a 6 through 12 school, has about 1,000 high school students, or a little more. And their career pathway, college and career pathway or academy, is the Academy of Creative Industries. And the thing to note about Marshall is what Nancy mentioned, you should look at your neighborhood school, the school that is your assigned school of residence. And Marshall is the one school, high school, that does not have an attendance zone per se. So there is preference given based on addresses that are within a half mile of the school. And you don't need to do anything special when if you're interested in that, it just goes based on your address. So unlike the other schools where you might just say, well, Blair is my assigned school of residence and that's where I want to go and I'm all set. You might say, well, Muir is not my assigned school, but I'd like to go there. So I have to go through open enrollment, and we'll talk about that. We have a whole program to tell you about that in a couple of weeks on December 6th. But in the case of Marshall, you would need to apply through open enrollment because it does not have an attendance zone. And then there's the CIS, the Center for Independent Studies, is one other thing I'll mention. We do not have the CIS principal as part of this panel tonight, but it's an independent student program for students who, for a whole variety of reasons, which could be work, could be medical related, could be anything, are unable to attend a mainstream high school. And so there are students who make use of that for a whole host of different reasons, and for some people it's the perfect fit. So let me talk a little bit about visiting schools. I hope that some of you have had a chance to tour a few schools by now, as we're getting well into November. But I think it's, for a couple of years there, it was really hard when we couldn't visit schools at all. It wasn't, possible because of the pandemic. If you can find an opportunity to visit a school, that's really your opportunity to get as much of a feel as you can for the campus itself, for just the feel of it, and a chance to really ask the school specific questions during those tours. If for some reason you can't take a tour and you have a very specific question that you want to try to get answered, you can always email that, and I think most of the principals or somebody on their staff would be willing to respond. So in preparing to visit, or in preparing to think about how you want to consider your choices, you basically 3 things. You want to talk with your student about their interests: academic, athletics, activities, social activities, what are they looking to get out of high school? And I think, for some students who maybe have been in a smaller school environment, they may be really hungry for that large, comprehensive high school experience. Somebody else might be athletics, particular sport is their primary interest at this point. They really want to be sure that they can pursue that. And so you would have to, and we just talked about this before y'all came into the room, but according to, based on the state's regulations for high school sports, you really need to be enrolled at a high school in order to play on one of its sports teams. So if that's a priority for your child, that's something you want to be clear on from the get-go. You can look at listed courses, athletics, and special program offerings on the matrix that I sent out. And there is also a link which I shared and will share again that on the district website that just sort of lists, course offerings, clubs, and sports. And the only thing there is in terms of the clubs and those kinds of activities, just to be aware that that can change from year to year. Let's see here, keep going. And again, think about those school specific questions during your tours. You may, if there's something that you're really concerned about or is really important to you, ask for more specific examples. If somebody mentions something and it's sort of touching on what you're interested in, but it doesn't really get to what's important to you. It's okay to ask. It's okay to ask for something specific. And if you don't feel comfortable asking during a tour about how the school would support a particular aspect of your, who your child is or what they need, again, it's fine to follow up with an email or ask to speak offline with the principal or someone on their staff. The other thing is that, connecting with current parents, parents whose kids are currently attending the school is something that Penn can help connect you with those folks. And the school may also be able to connect you, say, with their PTSA president or someone else who's can give you that parental perspective. Let's see, I'm going to go to the principals now. And I think the only other thing that I haven't really touched on here is the dual enrollment versus concurrent enrollment. And that was a question that came up, and we're going to share some resources, but very briefly, the idea is taking college courses when you're still in high school. And actually getting college credit and getting exposure to college level work. And the difference between the two is that dual enrollment means that your student is taking a course that will help them meet their high school graduation requirements and also give them college credit. It is a college level course, but it's taught at the, with other high school students on the high school during the school day. And the concurrent enrollment just means that your child is actually taking a course, let's say at PCC during the summer, during the evening, not during the school day. And so those are two different paths basically towards getting that exposure and credit for college through PUSD's partnership with Pasadena City College. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to go to our principals panel. And I don't know, Jeff, is it possible to highlight just those principal squares, or do we just need to do a speaker square?
No, I will add spotlights for the principals. So.
Okay. All right. You can take me out of the spotlight. I don't need to be in the spotlight. Okay. So, all right. So we have our principals from our high schools. We have Dr. Lawton Gray from John Muir Early College Magnet, and Ms. Lori Tolumian from Marshall Fundamental, Ms. Amy McGinnis from Blair High School, and Mr. Doctor, I'm gonna get it wrong, Matt Kodama from Pasadena High School. Hi. Since I just muffed that, I'm going to let you start off and just say hello. Each of you can have a chance to say hello.
All righty. Well, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet with you all in a virtual space, and you are in for a treat. All four comprehensive high schools here in Pasadena are amazing opportunities for our kids. We just want to make sure that we have something to offer you within your specific interests for this evening. So I look forward to connecting with everyone, and I am going to hand this off to Amy McGinnis, our principal at Blair.
Thank you so much, Matt. Hi, everybody. My name is Amy McGinnis. I am the principal at Blair High School, and I could not agree more with Matt. I think it all depends on what you're looking for and what your kid is looking for. And it's really important to listen to your student, to your child, to figure out what's the right fit, because it's that's where the magic will happen. So I'm excited to talk to you all tonight, and I'm going to pass it to Lawton Gray.
All right. Thank you, Ms. McGinnis. My name is Lawton Gray. I'm the principal at John Muir High School Early College Magnet, and happy to be here with you this evening. Looking forward to some great conversations, ask plenty of questions. That's why we're here. And I'm just grateful that we have this opportunity to talk about all of our amazing schools. So I'll pass it to Ms. Tulumian.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm so glad you're all here. I wish we were with you in person. Hopefully we'll be able to do that sometime soon, but thank you for being here. My name is Lori Tulumian. I'm the proud principal here at Marshall Fundamental, and look forward to your questions. Look forward to seeing you on a tour sometime soon. And thank you, Penn, to offering this up to all of our families. We really appreciate you and all of the work that you do connecting families to our schools. So thank you both, Susan and Nancy, and Jeff.
All right. So I'm going to kick off the first set of questions. You know, we looked at the questions that people had when they signed up, and one of the, obviously the big buckets was academics. And within that, though, a lot of different sort of pieces that people had questions about. The first thing I want to ask is just about class size and student teacher ratios, and what does that look like at the high school level? And anybody, you know, chime in, and if you have something different to say, you can add. You want to go ahead, Amy?
Sure, I'll start. So at Blair, we have a lot of different programs. We have the Armenian Academy, we have the dual immersion program, we have IB for grades 6 through 10, and then we also have IB diploma programs. So it really depends on where your child lands. And I would imagine that's true for a lot of the schools. So in some classes, your child might be in a class that has like a max of 15 kids. That's like a really higher level DP program for IB. And then you would get into a typical setting where you might have, 25 to 35 kids. So I would say that is about where we stand on enrollment. And I will open the floor to Lori Tulumian to see what she has to say.
Thank you, Amy. Yes, you were spot on. Our middle school classes, both Amy and I have schools that are 612 schools, and our middle school classes range in the neighborhood of like 30 to 35 students. High school is around 30 to 37 students, depending on the course. Some of our AP and honors classes tend to be a little bit higher than that. And then our specialized academic instruction courses, our SAI courses, are less than that. So typically around 25 students. So it really does depend on the course, but those are the averages. I'll pass it to Matt.
And I would be in agreement with Amy and Lori. We are in a very similar spot. We do not have a middle school attached to us at Pasadena High School, but it really will depend on the specifics of the program. So we do have a few academy courses, let's say when students are getting ready for capstone projects, other things that may be a bit smaller, but we really are in that 30 to 35 range on average for most of our classes. And I'll pass that over to Dr. Gray.
All righty. So we're very similar. I think our freshman classes are probably the larger classes because everyone has to take certain classes. When you get to the higher levels, they have more of an option of what classes they can take. Having the early college program on our campus in PCC, it kind of alleviates some of that classroom issue size for your sophomore and junior year. But then classes like English 4 and Gov and Econ can be between 32 and 36, like was said earlier. But our other classes can range between 24 to 32. But that's mainly because PCC is able to take some of the students off of our regular rosters and they're in classes with the PCC instructors. But other than that, it's pretty much similar.
Okay. Thanks. So I want to ask, there were sort of two sides of a question. One was, what do you do for students to help students adjust to the transition as freshmen? to being in high school. Or, you know, if kids are struggling in a particular area or in several areas. And then the flip side of that is, you know, what do you offer for kids who are accelerated or advanced? But I want to focus first on just kind of that transition, and throughout high school, what do you do to support kids when they're struggling, or to keep them from struggling, as the case may be?
So
Dr.
I'll
Gray, you
start.
wanna
Yeah, I'll
jump
start
in?
with that
Sure.
one. So I probably similar to the other schools, we have a seminar class that meets every Monday. And that's a place where teachers can connect with students, talk to them about how they're doing in classes. We also have social and emotional lessons that teachers will teach that are helping students adjust not only to the freshman year, but to the craziness of junior year where you're applying to colleges. And every year there's something going on where it's more difficult for students. So we have that in place. Most of our teachers are staying after school or at lunchtime to help tutor students if they need help in tutoring. We have College Access Plan, which is an amazing group. I think that's on all of our campuses, I think, where they're working with students.
Yes.
We have Caltech tutors that come with them and Sylvan tutors. So there's support on campus. It's just students have to be willing to come after school to get that support. And I know they're sometimes busy with other items, but that's a real big component of them giving up time either after school or at lunchtime to get that support they may need.
Anybody want to add or?
I'll add to that.
Oh,
First
go
of all,
ahead.
is my
Go ahead,
sound
Lauren.
stretchy by any chance?
It's
Am I
a
okay?
little, you're okay, not great, but it's okay.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure everyone can hear me. For our students, we offer something called Transition Night, and it is a night for both our incoming freshmen, our in-house freshmen, internal freshmen, or excuse me, our internal 8th graders, as well as incoming 9th graders from the outside. And that is an evening where we have parents gather, counselors join, administration joins, and it's really kind of just an informational night. We also do 8th grade roundtables, which is something that we currently have for our students to kind of get information from other students on campus, upperclassmen, so that our 8th graders can know what's offered at the high school level. And as far as additional opportunities for support, we offer tutoring, both before school and after school. Before school, we have late start on Mondays. That's our schedule. And so we have offer tutoring Monday mornings, and then we offer tutoring after school in our computer lab. And that's Monday through Thursday. So we do offer that as well. As far as students with IEPs, they meet regularly with their case carriers. Case carriers will schedule meetings with parents, and there are scheduled IEP meetings, but certainly parents can request to hold an IEP at any time to receive that support. And as far as the question about if your student is an athlete, how do they balance their academics with their athletics? I can probably speak for all of us, where our teachers are super understanding of our scholar athletes and the demands of the schedule and their practice, and especially with a later start. Our students are, kind of struggling to kind of get everything done. So our teachers will do anything they can possibly do to make it, workable for them, extended deadlines if necessary, so that they get their work done. I'll pass it to Matt.
All right, thank you, Lori. And I also, to kind of echo, we have very similar structures at Pasadena High School to Marshall as well as Muir, with one additional layer that was brought on by my predecessor here at Pasadena High School within the last 2 years. So we also feature for all of our incoming freshmen, the BAR program, which stands for Building Assets, Reducing Risks. And so upon enrollment at PHS, every freshman is assigned to a cohort, and they share at least 3 core teachers who get together each week to sit down and talk comprehensively on how students are doing in terms of social development. Have they received any referrals? Are they withdrawn? Are they a little bit out there and expressive? How can an adult step in and support their learning needs from a social lens? We look at attendance, we look at discipline, but most importantly, we look at both internal measures or teacher-created assessments, so we can see how students are performing on standardized assessments, as well as any of the offerings that we have here in district. We get together as a group of to look at comprehensively all ninth graders at least once a week in a multidisciplinary team that includes a special education teacher, a couple of counselors, a few of our teachers that work specifically in the bar program, as well as myself and another administrator. So we can search for different opportunities for both enrichment or for intervention if students need it. And then we're able to get all of our students off to a fairly good footing, nested into one of those cohorts to get started for that ninth grade year, which we found is really pivotal to have a high performing senior. And I'll pass that over to Amy to see if she has thoughts to add.
Thank you. So we don't have the bar program at Blair, although I do know of it, and it is an amazing program. So I'm really excited for your students that you have that. At Blair, the nice thing, and I think Lori can probably attest to this, is that continuity between sort of middle school and high school. And so a lot of our students, that transition is seamless if they're staying at Blair. But for our newer students, like, we know that's key, and we lean on our counselors, and our counselors will meet with our students. We also are part of a grant through CalEd Partners, which specifically focuses on 8th grade and 9th grade right now, grades, like our DNF rate, and making sure that our students that we reach in and we talk to those students to make sure that if they are getting a D in any of our grading periods, that our teachers are looking at that and figuring out strategies and ways that they can support those students, because we know that that's key. And we know that their success in 8th grade and 9th grade is pivotal to their graduation, right? And we want to make them successful. We also have an EIR grant where it leans on the social emotional piece that Lawton spoke about, and also just the academic piece, and knowing that those go hand in hand is super critical for student success, especially coming off of a pandemic, right? So I would say all of the things that everyone else said, with those layers added in as well.
You mentioned counselors, and so I'd like to ask a little bit about the role of the high school counselors. And in particular, there were a number of people who were curious, well, when do our students get to select their ninth grade classes, and do parents have a voice in that, and how does that work? So where and when does that happen? How does that happen? And in particular, if we have some families here who are not already in a PUSD middle school, so is it any different for them if they're planning to enroll in one of the high schools in the fall? And anybody want to start?
I mean, I could start. I know I just finished,
Yeah,
but I will just say
go
that we do, like, for our kids that are at Blair, we do the sort of 7-year plan with them, but there are plans that we can put into areas for our students. And while it's a framework, we do have our counselors to work with our students in freshman year and their parents. They meet with both, and they determine, like, what path do you think you want to take towards your graduation? And so we lay it out. Now, each and every year, they will meet with those students again, and they will kind of recraft that, because, like all of us, things change, and we want to appeal to the students and what they want to do. And so we always include the parent, but that is what we do each and every year and I'm sure it's the same for every single high school, but it's just really important that the counselors are having those conversations, and they really get to know them each and every year a little bit better. And I think that building of relationships is key. It's key in the classroom, it's key with counseling, it's key with administration. It's just sort of what makes a school run really efficiently, and just makes kids more successful. Also, just that sort of student voice is super important. I'm going to pass it to, let me see, Lori, go.
Yes, just echoing what Amy said, especially for our schools, the 612 schools, our counselors are broken down by alpha, and they remain the student's counselor the entire time. So 6th through 12th grade. So they do get to know our students really well. For any new student coming in, I highly encourage parents to just go ahead and email either administration or counselors to set up an appointment, because they can discuss course options, over the phone, via email. I think one of the inquiries was, do parents have a say? Absolutely. If you want to advocate for your child, for your student, and, say that they could possibly handle a course that's maybe a higher level course, just as an example, but maybe their test scores are not necessarily something that would be conducive to that. We absolutely take into account, parent advocacy. And so that's definitely a part of it. So just, I would recommend inquiring as soon as you are, thinking about one of our schools, touching base with one of us, or, emailing counselors directly. Definitely, we're open to that conversation as soon as possible.
You say as soon as possible, but when is there a time when the counselors are going out and like going to the middle schools to meet with the 8th graders, or we're doing that? When does that happen, and how do the parents find out about it?
So for,
Go ahead.
I would say for Muir, probably on PHS, our counselors actually go to the feeder middle schools. We do not go to Blair, nor do we go to Marshall, but we go to our other feeder middle schools to talk to the students. There will be a letter going out to families, to all the middle schools, probably mid-February to beginning of March. And normally it's the mid-March to the beginning of April where the counselors from the PHS and Muir will go to the middle schools to talk to families about what school they'd like to attend and talk to them about the class offerings. And then students will bring those papers back to the counselors at their school site. That'll give them to our counselors to where we would do the scheduling process from that point forward.
So by April, that's when those actual scheduling decisions are beginning to be made. Is that what I'm understanding from what you said?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And then kind of to add on to that thought from Dr. Gray and my colleagues, from PHS and Muir's side, as we're not attached to our middle schools, our counselors also meet with parents with questions starting at about mid-March all the way through June, and those conversations continue all the way until August. I also, at PHS, we offer a few different parent information nights when we're going through that registration process, just so we can have those mass meetings, but also really get together and have some FaceTime so we can start building that relationship that we hope will be fruitful for four years and beyond, right? So.
There was a question in the chat, which I'll just go ahead and ask. What is the counselor to student or student to counselor ratio at your schools, and is it pretty much the same at all of them?
Yeah, I dropped in the chat that it's 400 to 1, and that's per the UTP.
Okay.
UTP is United Teachers Alliance.
Okay. Thank you. Gotcha. But still, counselors do meet. Students can meet with their counselor each year, each semester as needed.
So each year, our counselors meet with our students to go over their 4-year plan. So that's done each year. It's about a 15-20 minute meeting, and they schedule that online. Parents can come into the school site, or they can do their meeting online. Our counselors have been great about having those for students, and it's really informative because, like I think Ms. McGinnis said, things do change. So we want to make sure the students are prepared. So yes, those meetings happen every year for our students. Plus, there's other counseling meetings that can occur if a parent needs to meet with the counselor. We also have 2 early college counselors on our campus that work with parents with our dual enrollment program. So therefore, they're not there to be their academic counselor per se in terms of the John Muir classes. They're there to support the students in terms of their college courses that they're taking on PCC's campus, on their satellite campus, on Muir's campus.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna switch gears to since you mentioned college, I wanna go to college prep. So in terms of the timeline, everybody's just mentioned that there is a 4-year plan that the counselors review with the students year to year. What else do they do to support that kind of college prep timeline? I mean, is there a regular sort of schedule of things that the counselors are discussing in terms of that with students or with their parents? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit, Amy?
Sure. I mean, so aside from just the regular counselors, we also have on my set, we have a middle school and a high school person who meets with students to talk about A through G requirements and whether or not they've met them. They meet with them early on to ensure that students understand what it is that they need. And A through G requirement is what you need to go to a UC school, essentially. So you want to make sure kids are ready for that when they go. And so we do have those two counselors who meet with our middle school students and our high school students specifically for that purpose. Separate and apart from that, we also have, FAFSA meetings, CADA meetings, application nights, everything. I mean, you can name it. This month alone, I think we have, at least one meeting a week, and I'm sure the other high schools do as well. It's just great support for kids. Again, I heard Dr. Gray say earlier, like kids need to take advantage of these opportunities because, I mean, they're wonderful. And I think the parents who figure it out and help their kids get there are like, wow, this is amazing. Because we really do have amazing support at all of our high schools for students as far as college preparedness and then applying for colleges, essays for colleges, how to fill out the FAFSA. It really, there is so much support. So I just encourage all parents, if your student isn't talking about it, ask questions and check out the emails from principals to make sure that you are getting what you need from your high school.
So that's the best way to really make sure that if there is information, you know where to find it and how to get it.
I would say check out the website and look for the principal email, because I know that all of these principals send out amazing information to their students and their parents.
Okay. There was a question about specifically how students with IEPs are accommodated, and I see that Lori Tulimian answered that for her school. I assume that the transition IEP meetings happen at all your schools for students coming from 8th grade with an IEP. And you mentioned actually earlier, Ms. Tulimian, that there can be a meeting requested at any time if there's a need for a student with an IEP. Is that something that is true for all the schools?
Yes,
Not
absolutely.
done differently.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So transition IEP meetings. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Gray, I apologize.
No, go for it.
Just really quick, and then you can back on my answer. We hold the transition meetings for Amy and I for incoming 6th graders from the 5th grade with a member of our team, a member of the incoming schools team, and then administration from the schools. And then we, based on the IEP, we create a program accordingly. For the majority of our students who stay with us, the IEP obviously follows them through 6th through 12th grade unless they exit. But any incoming student from outside, if they're incoming 9th grade, same thing. But we hold transition IEP meetings. We take a look at what's in the IEP so that we can offer a program accordingly. Go ahead, Dr. Ray.
Yes, so it's very similar to Ms. Tulimian. We offer one day where we go to each of the middle schools with one of our administrators and our special ed department chair and hold the transition IEP at that school. And then they get the information that they need in terms of what it looks like for John Muir High School. And then we start programming the students over the summer, knowing what classes they need to take from our meeting that we had back in. More than likely it'll be in April where we have that transition meeting with the middle schools. And we do one middle school per day to make sure that we can accommodate for the students and the parents to be at those meetings and let them know at least probably about 3 to 4 weeks in advance of those meetings.
Thank you. We had a question about graduation outcomes, and I sort of highlighted that in the slides earlier, and we will share the links to that information with everybody afterwards. But what about kids who are perhaps not college bound? They may be prepared to, or are there alternatives? Are there other places that kids are going from your schools besides that?
So we're a wall-to-wall academy school. And so for us, there's 3 different paths students can take. That doesn't mean you're going to go into that particular path when you graduate, but they're available to you. What I tell parents all the time and guardians is this: your student doesn't have to go to college once they graduate from John Muir High School or College Magnet. However, if they want to go to college, they can. And that's what we're preparing them. If they want to go, they can. However, if they choose not to, there's so many different other options. We work at LA Trade Tech. We have our engineering academy that has different apprenticeships that they do with students. We have an architecture, construction, engineering program that we have with Marshall, where students are learning about architecture, construction, and engineering. students going to the military. There's so many different other options besides college that we prepare students for. It's just, once again, if a student wants to go to college, once they graduate, they will have that opportunity. And if they choose not to, then they have other opportunities as well.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to ask briefly, the dual enrollment is a feature of what the Early College Magnet is offering with the PCC satellite campus. So that is something that is relatively easy to do or facilitated in a special way at John Muir. How does dual enrollment, how does that work at the other schools? I know you all offer some classes. Can you just say a little bit about how a student would find out which classes were available and how they would take advantage of those? So Lori and then Matt, you'll go.
Yeah, so thank you. At Marshall, it's only offered through 6th period, and the classes are limited. We have currently Mandarin, we have financial literacy, and we have like a studio makeup course. And again, Latin school in John Muir is unique in that students can be enrolled in those classes throughout the day versus specifically for Marshall, it's during the 6th period. So I'll pass it to Matt.
And at Pasadena High School, we offer about 6 different concurrent enrollment offerings. Then those are all after. And so that is not on our student schedules. That's typically in an 8th or 9th period. So some of those classes can start as soon as 4:15. Others we've tried scheduling a little later. We have not had the same participation rates when it's too far after school. But it's truly something that's unique for John Muir Early College Magnet during the school day. But we do have limited offerings after school for a number of students.
And I would echo that at Blair. We try to offer at this point 2 per semester, and we try to track it so that the kids could get a certificate of completion in an area if they want to, which I think that speaks to the what can I do after high school if I don't want to go to college, and that is one of the things that we do offer. But again, as Matt said, they're after school. So it is not,
Okay.
wall to wall is unique.
Okay, I appreciate the clarification there, and if I misspoke. So I think, we've been hearing a lot of questions on this topic, and I think what we might do following up, and I mean Penn, and by that I mean me, is sort of try to get a one-pager together that gives some clarity on this a little bit more than, because I think there's a lot of information on the websites. On the PUSD website or the PCC website, but it's hard to sort of sort it out. What does that actually look like? So thank you.
Yeah,
for
because
that.
all the high schools do offer PCC classes, and everybody was fed it correctly. It's just Muir's the only one that has the dual enrollment during the school day between the bells.
Okay.
But everyone else does offer concurrent enrollment classes after school for PCC classes, or like Mr. Lumian said, 6th period, which is the end of the class day period for them, because it might go over a little bit after school.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. I want to shift gears again and talk a little bit about school culture and safety questions. And I'm going to just open that up. I think there are a lot of things that people are thinking about when they talk about safety, from what's the security like for the campus itself? Is it open? Is it closed? People access to the campus, but also, school culture, bullying, social media related stuff, and mental health support in general. So I'm going to just ask that as an open question for you to each say a little bit about that for your own school. Anybody want to jump in there first?
All right, so we have a wellness center on our campus. We created that after COVID because we saw when students came back on the campus, they needed some type of extra support. So we actually paid for a marriage and family therapist who works with our students, Miss Nancy. She's amazing. But it's a great space for our students that need maybe 10 to 15 minutes of just finding themselves, getting back some of their emotions under control. It's just a great place for them to just relax and be ready for the next class. We also have forced security on our campus. They're absolutely amazing. They know what's going on. And I'm blunt, I'm to the point. So this might sound a little bit interesting to some people, but Muir did not have a great reputation back in the day. And unfortunately, some of that carries over from people who go think this is John Muir High School from 2007 and 2008 when it wasn't doing very well. And once again, I'm blunt, but that's not the case. It's an amazing campus. We have an amazing environment. Once families do a tour, they come on campus and they go, wow, this is amazing. We didn't believe it was like this. And I'm like, well, what were you expecting? But anyway, but it's actually an amazing campus and the student body is wonderful. And yes, there's a lot of Black and brown kids on my campus. That's just what it is. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I think everybody should be fine with that. And, but once again, we still do fight that stereotype of people, having an issue with that. But once again, once you come on our campus, you'll see that everybody's inviting, loving, and it's a great place to be. So that's my take on my environment on my campus.
Thank you.
I would add that I think it is really about the school culture and about the feeling when you walk onto a campus. And so I think it is really important. I think, it's sort of from an outside perspective, it can seem really scary. I remember dropping my kids off at middle school for the very first time and being like, whoa, these kids are huge. And that's middle school, right? So I understand that sort of like angst, but really honestly, when you get onto a campus, just like Dr. Gray is saying, like, it's about the kids, it's about the feeling, it's about the culture, it's about like Dr. Gray spoke about his security. I would agree with mine. Like, if I would say our security know every single kid on campus for sure, hands down. And it's not because the kids are getting in trouble. It's because they know the kids, because they know the power of the relationship. And I think that's critical to the success of safety on campus. When kids feel like they have someone they can turn to, an adult they can turn to. We also have Miss Maggie on our campus. It's not Miss Nancy, but she is there and she provides mental health supports. Kids know they can go and stop in anytime. And I think that's I'm going to say the advantage of a small high school, because that is one of our advantages, is that we know all of our kids, and that although I would argue Lawton probably knows all of his kids too, and all of you all probably do, but it feels like a family. And I think that's something really special about Blair.
I would like to
Go
echo
ahead.
that. Absolutely. I think that we foster a family feel at all of our campuses. And one of the things that I tell parents all the time is when you're touring schools, take a look at what unstructured time looks like. What does it look like before school? What does it look like during nutrition, during lunchtime, after school? Because all of us are all out and we're supervising. Every single administrator is out during unstructured time. All security are out during unstructured time. Most of us have specialized staff, such as like an RTI coach who also assists. And I think we all have some component or some version of a wellness room. Like I have a wellness room as well. So that's really important to take a look at what unstructured time looks like, just to see how everyone just coexists peacefully on campus, despite what, people may say about PUSD schools. It's really about seeing it in person, live and in color. So I encourage you to come on to a tour just to see what it looks like, because we all work super, super hard. We greet our students every morning. We supervise during, like I said, all of those breaks. And that's how we're getting to know our students. We're making all of our, classroom observations as well. So we're in the classroom just monitoring instruction, but we're also there watching them during their free time to make sure that we're coexisting peacefully. So definitely look out.
Yeah, and if I can just jump in here, I want to echo what all of my colleagues have been saying, but schools are truly about the people that occupy them, and most importantly, our students and the opportunities that we create for them to form strong bonds and a sense of community. So while PHS is a very large place with about 42 square acres to manage and a lot of students, we're also incredibly proud of the culture that we produce and the sense of connectedness. In such a large place, we say that there's somewhere and something for everyone available for them in Pasadena High School. So we have a lot of staff members. Our force security on campus have been amazing in just walking over and helping students get started with a club or an activity or something else on campus. And to echo my colleagues and their other supports, PHS is also a community school. And so we do have a Los Angeles County Office of Education operated student wellness center. that our students frequent when they need to go in and sometimes just take that break or talk to another caring adult who may not be associated with the classroom, who may not be associated with home, but just wants to sit down and talk to a trusted caring adult for a few moments. And that does tend to make the critical difference. But I can tell you of all of my colleagues, we are out in the quad connecting our students and making sure that we're building vibrant communities so that our students look forward to coming to school every day, just like all parents wait for students to come home at the end of the day. We all ask the same question, how did it go? But what we're really listening for is, did my kid have a great day at school and are they excited about tomorrow? And I think that at all 4 of our high school campuses in Pasadena, we really prioritize that aspect for all our entire community.
Just to ask, thank you, just related to that, for students who we may have some families here who have already a high school student who may be transferring in, or in the case of Blair and Marshall, somebody coming in at 9th grade and not already feeling like they're part of that established community. Is there anything that you do particularly to help with that transition for somebody who may be coming in later?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, we have that transition night, and what we make a point of doing is having our ASB, our school clubs, our staff, whoever can be there to really welcome the students. And our students, the ones who have been here since 6th grade, they already know that that's part of their deal to welcome students at the 9th grade who didn't start with them, and they embrace that, and they know that how they felt when they were coming in. As a 6th grader, and so having a welcoming environment and making those connections early on is super important. And students at Marshall will tell you, we're ready to meet the new students, and they really take them under their wing. Like Amy said, and we all said, creating that family.
Yeah, and we also do like a student run info night. So I think that's fun too, because I think kids want to hear from kids, and like that's key. So that's one of the things that we do as well.
Yeah, thank you. I want to we're coming up on the hour. I don't want to keep our principals much longer, but if you have 2 things I'd like to ask, I'm going to put the link to a program's evaluation survey and ask our attendees if you wouldn't mind taking a few minutes to fill that out when you leave here. Nancy, is that something you can drop in the chat for me? Yeah, thank you. So it's a short survey, and we really look at those responses to help shape our program. So if you have a moment to do that afterwards, much appreciated. And I think we'll just take a few minutes to see if there are any questions. I think we covered most of what was got dropped in the chat. Nancy, did I miss anything back there?
There was one question about what would be considered like adulting classes, financial literacy, or that kind of thing, whether that's an option for electives on campuses.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so that is one of the courses that's offered through PCC for Marshall during 6th period is the financial literacy course. So they have that option, and I think that also exists at PHS. Yes, also at Blair. Okay.
Okay.
And then we have our business academy. So students who are in the business academy, they get that training. Unfortunately, we wish we had it for all of our students. I know that's something that they will need, but right now we just mainly have students in our business academy.
And there was also a question about collaboration among the sites. And Rosalie, I'm not sure I understand what you really wanted to know. So if you want to unmute and ask your question, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I actually think that particular question was answered like in bits and pieces by several of the principals. Each school has its unique offerings, and on some level, I feel like, well, if you choose one, then can you still have access to the special programs at the others, or are you basically precluding yourself from having access to some of the others?
You get where you go. You get the stuff to where you go. I hate to say it that way, but that's really kind of what it is.
Yeah.
I know people would like to smorgasbord it and pick a little bit from every place, but IB is at Blair. Tulumian has a lot of AP courses and some other stuff at Marshall. Law and Public Services at PHS and CAMAD and all those other great programs. And we have early college in the academy structure. So we don't.
I will
Right.
say that the Into the Woods program, which is the performance opportunity for high school students this year, is for all students. The same thing with the All-Star Marching Band and the Rose Parade. So there are some extracurricular opportunities across schools, but again, not sports.
Okay.
Right.
And speaking of
I-
sports, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. I do want to hear about sports, but my other kind of on a related theme, what about skills that used to be part of the high school world, but then were dropped? It's been a long time since I went to a U.S. high school, so things like shop or I'm not sure what else, like introduction to drafting, things that I remember kind of seeing in the olden days that high schools used to offer.
Ooh, I'm gonna jump in again. So that's our engineering academy. And we actually have a shop course. If you come take a tour, you can see it. It's absolutely amazing. Mr. Osh is he used to teach shop back in the day, but now he teaches US history. But we have that situation in our auto shop area. We don't have auto shop anymore. It's more of an engineering area, but we have a lot of shop feel to it. So we do have that. And then you mentioned another one. It was shopping. What was the other thing you mentioned?
Introduction to drafting, like, like
yes, that's part of engineering
things
academy as
that,
well.
yeah, things that would be that one would expect to see in trade schools, but it would be nice. It was nice when long ago kids, even in high school, were introduced to some of it.
I think you're seeing more of that come through with the pathways these days. So every pathway that we each offers an element of that. And I think what has come to sort of like risen to the surface as far as what educators are realizing is that these are important skills and that not everybody wants to go to college. And so let's incorporate them more in our pathways. And so you are definitely seeing more of those in each and every one of our pathways, I would say.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and if I can add to that answer as well, you can find that in a number of, like Dr. Gray had suggested, his pathways. You can find similar functions at PHS. And then there's also a space that we fill in with activities and clubs. So for example, at Pasadena High School, I believe we're the only high school in the nation that has an active Model A restoration club. And so we do have groups of students who come in throughout the week, after school, on weekends. And right now they're restoring a beautiful 1937 Model A that will be raffled off to the community and then go back to supporting a few programs here on campus. And so we're always looking for those opportunities to, kind of have some of those traditional shop-like classes, even though in our app academy, say, that may be happening on a computer screen and students are coding, or in creative arts, media and design, they're taking trips out to the art center and they're understanding the, auto design aspect. We still like to see students with those tools in hand and learning how to work on, something in the real world with transferable skills.
So Math Academy students go to PHS if they want to continue with the Math Academy. Can the other high schools speak to what advanced level math would look like at your schools?
For us, it's IB math, but our students, because it's a 6 through 12, so if your student comes into Blair as a 6th grader and they're advanced, they can accelerate. Last year we had a 7th grader, he went into Math 2 honors. So he was super mathy, but the option was there because he was at a 6 through 12 high school. But then when you get into the IB math program, it sort of reminds me of college level math, where there's multiple whiteboards in the room and they're working on math problems for days because that's how long it takes to sort of dig into them. So I would say there are a lot of options, probably at each and every one of our schools for those higher level math opportunities.
And for us at Muir,
Any-
we have PCC, so therefore, once a student takes a calculus A/B test, then they can enroll in a PCC class. It'll probably be concurrent enrollment unless it's a stats course or it's another math 5 course taught about through PCC.
I'm just,
yeah,
Susan,
go
I'm
ahead.
just dropping in the chat as we're chatting, so.
Yes, thank you. Thanks. We had one more question, and I think we're going to start wrapping it up in the next few minutes here. We'd love to hear about sports if we have time. So, where does sports fit into your program? I know there's a lot to talk about there, but try to just be pithy. And whoever wants to jump in first.
So I'll make it real fast. So we have pretty much everything except for wrestling, field hockey, rugby. We're trying to get rugby. But sports, we have marching band, we have pep squad, we have dance team, probably all the things other schools have. You know, there's more than just sports, there's other things that students can get PE credit for. And I just have to give a shout out to our boys varsity water polo team who just won their CIF Division 6 championship in water polo. And our football team, even though we lost the bell to PHS this year, we are in our 3rd round of playoffs for football as well, CIF. So.
Right.
Okay, I want to follow that. I have to also mention, we have 16 competitive sports at Marshall, and we have the CIF Southern Section Division 5 champs in girls soccer last spring semester, and that was awesome. So it's always great when our students are able to be in competitive sports and actually advance to that level, and all of us have that situation. So we're super excited.
I'm just going to put it out there that Blair, if your kid wants to play sports, every kid plays at Blair. We're not like super competitive right now, although we have a great basketball team, and I'm really looking forward to what they're going to do this year. We have an amazing boys soccer team this year. So, but the thing about it is the camaraderie and the skills and the play time and all of that. So we offer that for our students, and it's really, really, really fun.
Everybody plays.
And just kind of to jump in and round out all of these comments, sports is a huge component of Pasadena High School. And we offer everything plus, really. We just started offering boys volleyball in addition to our girls volleyball, and we're constantly looking at expanding. It's just about the availability of coaches. While we did not do as well in CIF this year, we did make it to the 1st round of CIF in Division 3, which was quite an accomplishment all by itself. But we are incredibly proud to support our athletes and know that having amazing athletic teams on campus really just adds to that overall spirit on campus.
And just to round that out, how about arts and other that aspect of enrichment activities?
I'm going to start again, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Blair is a small school, but our drama program is growing at like really rapid speeds. We're probably going to have an IB drama program within a year or 2. And I say that because we went from 1 drama class to 3 from 1 year to the next. And so we have high school, middle school, and we had to cap it at 3 because that was all that we ran out of space. Like that teacher could only do that many because she had other things to teach. So we're growing. We got a new drama teacher this year as well. So I think between our band, our orchestra, our chorus, and our IB music, and we have composition as well. I mean, there's a lot going on, I think, in all of our spaces as far as visual and performing arts. So I'm really proud of PUSD in general, just as a whole. This district has a lot to offer. I think whatever high school your child ends up at, you will be amazed.
All right.
We have a great.
I'm just gonna. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm saying we have a great district liaison director for the arts, Karen Anderson, who's really worked really hard to pump up all the schools' arts programs and offerings. So we're just really excited to see what we're doing. I think all the schools have great programs: band, choir, drama. We're putting on plays now. All the schools are putting on plays now. And so I think you can't really go wrong in the arts here in our district for high schools.
And I'm just dropping in the chat the link for our Navigating Open Enrollment program. I accidentally dropped in the link for this program, which was my mistake. Because multitasking is not really a thing, right, people? There we go. All right. So I'm going to just put this in for everybody. If you're interested in learning more about open enrollment, this is the link, which I just dropped in the chat. And we will be sharing the links and the recording and all the information that we have here tonight and more in a follow-up email. So if for some reason you are arriving at this meeting and you did not participate you did not register on our site, so we don't, then, you know, please drop your email in the chat and I will make sure you get it as well. But I think everybody here did sign up, and so we will send a follow-up email with all the information. And a link to the recording.
Will you also be saving the chat transcript? Because some of the conversation was interesting.
Sure. We'll go through the chat to capture any information that was added there, so that's part of what we include in our follow-up email. Thank you for asking. And so I think I'm gonna wrap us up here, and I just want to ask you one more time. I want to thank our principals. I want to thank Jeff, and I want to ask folks who participated once again, if you don't mind taking a few minutes to fill out our program evaluation survey and give us some feedback, that would be great. And go check out those tours.